Hello, and welcome to the Roll Show, the place where we play and talk about games. Today, we're going to actually be getting prepared to play a game by making some spies for the game Night's Black Agents. Now, if you haven't heard of Night's Black Agents, it's kind of an interesting spy thriller with some supernatural elements. And I kind of wanted to check because I think, having checked out as many games as we have in the past and kind of as many things that go across our desk as we think about what we want to play next and everything like that. Quick check-in, like, what did you guys know about Night's Black Agents before starting this? I think, Brent, you probably knew more than Jeff, but what do you guys know about it?
What do you mean? I've read all of Night's Black Agents, and I've read the Dracula dossier and some of the adventures for Night's Black Agents. I was going to run it at one point.
Okay, nice. So you know a lot of it, probably more than I do at this point. And Jeff, what about you? Have you heard of Night's Black Agents before?
I'd heard about it a couple of times, and then when we covered like the Robin Laws book, and I was, looking at all the stuff he wrote, I realized that he had been involved in creating it. And somewhere along the line, I learned that it did involve vampires.
Okay,
but so that's about it. Spies and vampires.
Fair enough.
About what I learned,
and I think that's probably at least a good starting point for it.
I mean, that's the high end pitch, right? Spies and vampires.
It is, but it gives you some twists and some other things to work with. So the core premise of it is it was written by Kenneth Hite, and it's published by Pelgrane Press, and it uses the Gumshoe system that I believe Robin Laws was really important in creating, that was then spread among many different games. But you do play as burned, freelance, or rogue intelligence operatives. Think of your ex-CIA, your ex-Mossad, ex-FSB, really whatever. You're skilled, you're dangerous, and at this point, you're kind of off the books. Now, the important part about the Night's Black Agents is that you're really kind of you don't necessarily have to know that there are vampires or anything like that when you start. And in fact, sometimes they suggest that if you're starting a campaign of sorts, that you don't know all those things, and they kind of develop into your character as you kind of play through your campaign. But basically the premise is that you're going to stumble into a conspiracy that is deep and scary and has these elements where the people that are kind of pulling the strings behind the scenes are more than just some bad actors. And the game does, as Brent said, have vampires, not the sparkly ones, but they do have vampires of different flavors. And I guess you could have sparkly vampires if you wanted. That doesn't necessarily have to be your Transylvanian style vampire. It could be vampires of many origins and all those kind of things that it helps you kind of walk through the kind of style and flavor that you can go through. But in each case, these vampires are not altruistic, let's say. Is that fair to say, Brent?
I mean, they're villains. They're the villains of the story.
Yeah, they're usually villains, and maybe I don't know how misunderstood.
They're not usually villains. I mean, they are the villain of the game.
That's true. They are villains. So the tone for the game is, kind of Born Identity and mixed with a little bit of that 30 Days of Night. That was the name of that vampire movie in Alaska, right? 30 Days of Night. Mm-hmm. Or you could easily imagine it being kind of like a Casino Royale, but definitely a monster at the end. The game does take a lot of work to give you some grounded, gritty tradecraft. And I guess for some reason I had never heard of that word until I had started reading this tradecraft.
You've never heard of tradecraft?
Apparently it's a fairly common spy term.
It is. Uh-huh. I was going to say, I think I read way more thriller.
It's in every spy movie. It's in every spy movie ever.
I apparently shot over my head because I actually was reading the Warren Ellis James Bond comic, and I was just like, oh, it's literally right there. Tradecraft. Oh, the trade. Okay. Must have just missed that one. I missed the memo. But since it is gritty, you're thinking to yourself in kind of real world terms, European cities, places that actually exist, and of course have just been reflavored. And of course the horror itself isn't always prevalent, but it's done best when it kind of creeps into the story. And the one thing that's really important about your characters is this is not a power fantasy. So in other games that we played recently, you've had actual superpowers in some cases, like Orpheus Protocol or something like that. so it's not that powerful, but at the same time, you guys are competent. I mean, you guys are ex agents of whatever agency or whatever your background is, but you guys are good at what you do. You just happen to also be outgunned and possibly outclassed. So I guess to switch that over to the Gumshoe system, just the kind of engine that powers this, is that if those of you that have been around the channel for a while may have seen that Brent and I played a duet game called Cthulhu Confidential, where we dove into a little bit of like a tightened Gumshoe version for a one-on-one type endeavor. But the idea behind this is that it's designed around investigation, but you find the clue if you have the skill, full stop. There's no gating of dice rolls to help you find and gather information. The real tension from the game comes from what you do with the information instead. So you have kind of like, I'm not to say that you get heaps and heaps of clues thrown at you, but unlike D&D where you walk into a room and you fail that perception check to find the super important clue that helps you understand that the Duke is behind the recent disappearances. This case, you walk into a room, you find the clue. Now you know something that points at the Duke, but now what do you do with that information? But there are still dice, and you will have a whole plethora of general abilities that revolve around your action, your combat, as well as survival, that do use dice, and there are resource pools that you draw from. So not anything too crazy, but I mean, personally, I like the idea of not gating clues behind rolls. I mean, I don't know if that sounds, Jeff, since you haven't played a Gumshoe game yet, does that sound exciting? Since maybe
I don't know yet. I'm interested in learning, but I think it's too soon for me to comment on that.
Okay. Well, don't worry. I think I like the idea of it. So we'll see if in a more a larger group, if it holds up as well as it did in the Cthulhu Confidential, because I like Cthulhu Confidential well enough. It was fun. Yeah. So Night Black Agents has 4 campaign modes. Now there's stuff that's like Dust mode, where it's grounded, realistic. Vampires are kind of more subtle, and conspiracies very shadowy. There's the Mirror mode, which is kind of is very much a paranoid psychological. And I think if I remember correctly, as I was reading it, that's a kind of almost like PvP enabled. There's high stakes mode, a burn mode. And then of course, there's kind of the default mode, which is those other elements as you're going through the book are called out to add certain flavor to aspects of what you're doing and everything like that. So we're just going to be playing, for those of you that know about Night's Black Agents, we're going to be playing just the default. None of these extra modes of play will be included in what we're doing. Okay. So that's kind of the basis of it. Now, for people that are aware, apparently the Dracula dossier is incredibly popular. Now, I have not read or played through it just yet, but people really put that as a top tier adventure, or I should say campaign. Would you say that's fair to say it's a campaign, right, Brent? It's pretty long.
It is a campaign. Yeah, it's long.
And so people have put it in the top tier level. So if you haven't actually heard of the Dracula dossier or Nice Black Agents, and you're looking for those, like, what are the 10 games or what are the 10 campaigns you should play in your lifetime? I would say that there are at least enough people out there that would probably try to push for this to be up there. It's so good, apparently. So maybe one day that'll be motivation enough for us to play it. We'll see how it goes. But
if we want to play it for years, like 5 years, I mean, that's the problem with all of the epic campaigns is they require a lot of time.
It could be I mean, some people said they got it done in 18 months.
With 2 hours
playing 6-hour sessions twice a week.
Probably 6-hour sessions. Well, you never know. There are these people that play like just all day on a Saturday once a month, and they just go and go and go and go. And I bet you a lot of progress could be made that way. But for our scenario that we're running, we're running the Harker Intrusion. And so this is going to be it's kind of like a one shot. You can actually download the Harker Intrusion from Pelgrane Press's website. It was part of the free RPG day back in the middle. I think 2015 was the time it was. But it's one of their scenarios that they have, and it's actually a precursor. If you run it for your friends or something like that, you could use it easily to lead in to the Dracula dossier. So this is what you as players know going into the Harker intrusion, is that you first of all know and trust each other to one degree or another. You do have a history. Maybe you've worked together before. Maybe you vouch for the others. It's whatever reasons you want to attribute it to, you at least know and trust each other. So there's no like, you guys meet in a bar and we're going to try to get this with two strangers. You guys get into the same taxi cab and try to drive away or something. Who knows? You both know the conspiracy exists. So there is something operating in the criminal underworld that's organized, patient, well-resourced. You don't know how big, you don't know how old, you don't know who's pulling the strings, but you know it's big, and you have a keen idea that some of the people at the top aren't human. This is more specific to the actual intrusion scenario, is that someone has reached out to you a few days ago. An encrypted packet hit your inbox, no name, no face, but the contents prove the sender knows more about the conspiracy that you do, significantly more. They want to work with you, but first you have to prove that you're worth working with. And so it also includes a mission, which is that a journalist named Olivia Liu is in Marrakesh, Morocco, and she's on the run. The bad guys are after her, which probably means she knows something. And of course, your job is that you have to reach her first. So knowing that is kind of the background for the scenario, we're going to actually go through and create our own individual agents. However, if you are playing the Harker intrusion, there are pre-generated characters that it lays out. They're fairly specialized. I think there are 5 of them in total that you can play with, but we're going to have our own 2 super duo agent group that we're going to make right now. So are you guys ready to make some agents?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Sure.
So actually, character creation in Gumshoe is fairly easy, or at least I should say Night's Black Agent is fairly easy. Now, there's a few different ways to do it. There's a little bit of quick hand, like a shorthand that you can take when you're starting your character creation and everything like that, is that you could first of all start with just a background. Now, the backgrounds exist as an easy way for you to kind of quickly gather some skills, put them together on the sheet, and that's kind of like where your initial spend goes. Now, of course, even though you're spending these things on getting a background, the background itself doesn't cover all of your abilities. It just gives you kind of like a baseline to start. So, for example, if you were to choose an analyst background, you would get investigative abilities that are data recovery, languages 2, research 1, traffic analyst 2. And then, of course, if those 6 points in investigation don't suit you for the analyst flavor that you're looking for, it does also suggest alternates such as like accounting, bureaucracy, criminology, history, human terrain, military science, or something like that. Now, each background includes 6 investigation abilities and 18 general abilities. And so, is it 18? It should be 18. So that's kind of like your initial spend as to what you're looking for when you spend the background. And of course, then you're going to go from there. Now, there are some points that you get for free. Normally in a game, you get a cover 10 and network 15 for free. Now, because we're doing the Harker intrusion is kind of a one shot, I'm going to be maneuvering your network and cover down to 5, just because if you have too much network, it's very easy to then build networks, like kind of, you can immediately have a huge network available to you that would be, I guess, maybe put the game too much in your favor. It would be an undue advantage for a one shot. So the 5 is just to kind of help.
Even though they're suggesting that for only 2 people?
What's that?
They're suggesting that for only 2 people?
Yeah. I mean, they bring the network down to 5 for everybody in this, but I'm just going to take it down to 5, see where it goes. Because I feel like 30 network would be a lot in this, according to what I've read. So gives you some options to choose from, though. All right. So backgrounds. Brent, you had some ideas as to what kind of backgrounds you were thinking. What was a background that you had thought?
I think I'm going to do cleaner.
Okay.
The cleaner removes evidence of covert activity from a scene. Sometimes the evidence is just fingerprints or surveillance tapes. Sometimes it's bloodstains or a corpse. This background especially combines well with others, which is one reason I am choosing it, with just the two of us. I want two that integrate fairly well. It's a good, useful skill set for any covert operative. A cleaner's abilities also come in handy when removing a living person from a scene, either willingly or involuntarily in hostile extractions.
Okay.
Okay, so you're gonna go cleaner.
Yeah.
And before you look, you can actually choose one or more backgrounds, just so you know. So if you wanted to take a package of 2, you could definitely do that as well.
Do we have enough points? Like, is that how points work? Like, how do the
Yeah, because as the number of players is 2, you would have 32 investigative build points. So I mean, you can kind of go ham on this if you want, but that's just to kind of, for your packages, you could do one or more backgrounds.
Well, you could pick like a package as your basic and then just fill out whatever skills you want after
Correct.
that, right? Okay. And I have the package, the initial package costs 6, your background costs 6 points, right?
Yep. So your background costs 6 of
and we have,
it costs 2. Well, it costs 6 investigative and 18 general ability points.
Okay. And how many do we have total again?
So you have your investigative build points is 32, and your general ability points. Oh, I thought and you have 70 build points on general.
That's split in half basically, because it's for both. That's for both of us, right? Or is that in general?
No, that's so you get 32 build points each, and you have 70 general ability points each.
Okay.
And so Jeff, knowing that he's kind of thinking of a cleaner as his primary background and where he comes from, what kind of backgrounds out of those 15 did you see that maybe attracted you to it?
I think I might go with an asset handler.
Okay, so you used people in the field?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. So an asset handler comes with things like bullshit detector, intimidation, negotiation, reassurance. Now, as we're kind of looking at where those points go and everything like that, this is where I think it becomes very interesting for your investigative abilities. So when you have a 1 in your investigative abilities, what that does is that basically like gives you a success in that topic. So if you go into a crime scene, for example, or you enter into a room, Brent, you can easily suss out things that are related to, basically your background without having to roll or anything like that. Now, there is an important component of it that if you want to spend investigation points, and what do they mean by spend investigation points, is that you'll notice that you'll have probably more investigation points for each of you to have all of the investigation abilities covered. So you may have a few points left over, or as you notice in your background, you notice that, like, for example, asset handler has bullshit detector 2. That means that you have the ability to spend investigation points in certain situations. So if you spend 1 point from your pool, it gives you a tactical edge, maybe a shortcut, or you can create like a favorable NPC impression. However, if you spend 2 points, you might be able to get a bigger bonus, maybe deeper info, a moral workaround, or you could even create like a flashback scene if you have a way that you could sneak yourself into this situation, kind of going back in time and kind of doing that whole heist montage thing.
It's not maybe, it's like you do, right?
Yeah, like I'm just saying it's one of the possible outcomes. You could use that, or you could use something else, whatever you feel fits. Now, the idea about it is that these are important, but the idea is that if you, for whatever reason, like let's say I'm running the scenario and I don't have either an edge or anything for the bigger bonus or something like that planned, then if you propose a spend, you can actually propose a your own benefit to the situation should it fits. So be creative, and so you may be able to apply your own, or or you can auto succeed a task that should cost effort. So you might have to spend 1 or 2 points from a relevant pool. Now, the one thing that's important is that if you don't have any benefit available and you say you want to spend points and neither one of us can think of something, you don't lose those points. So it's not like you go into it, spend 2 points, then I go, and then you walk away 2 points later. So, all right. Whew. All right. So, so now you've got your backgrounds and everything like that. Do you guys have, from the general ability list, do you have abilities that you're more interested in taking? And where do you guys think your other focuses outside your background might be? Do you guys have, just for our own, to keep it a little bit simpler for the stream, because there's so many different investigation abilities, do you guys have abilities you definitely want to take and split up between the two of you? So, like, for example, um, who wants to have heart history? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I will probably take a few points in preparedness. I know he has it as a skill, but it's good to have. Also,
Okay.
shooting. I don't have shooting isn't a ability in the package, so I'll probably wind up taking that. But that's a general ability, not an investigative ability.
Mm-hmm.
Probably surveillance, stuff like that.
Okay.
Streetwise things.
So now, and then there are definitely, so you bring up a good point, because there are definitely some skills that, aren't bad for you to double up on either. So for example, notice is one that's, how you case a scene or something like that, spot hidden clues, guard positions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that is one that I believe that most people don't mind. And you guys also get a free point in Streetwise and Tradecraft. I forgot to mention that when we first started. And in this game, Streetwise being the ability to navigate the underworld, and of course, Tradecraft is your ability to use espionage techniques.
And general abilities, are they one for is it 1-for-1 on points?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. And so if you guys want to kind of mix and match those investigation abilities as you go, you can definitely do so. And I can start explaining the general abilities and how that works at any point.
All right, go for it.
Okay. So the next thing that is going to be in your
What is stability?
what is stability? What is stability? No. So stability is kind of like your okay. So stability is basically like your ability to be in the moment and not have a big problem with the type of basically losing it.
So wait, so there's stability on the sheet. There's like health and stability, but there's also stability. I have a stability 2 as a general ability. What does
Yeah.
that mean?
So let me kind of explain what stability is. So stability is basically, it's kind of like your health, and it's basically something that tells you how together you have everything. So if your stability does eventually go from down to 0 or -5, you are shaken. And if it goes from -6 to 11, you're shattered. And of course, if it reaches -12 or less, you are incurably insane. And there are things that cause you to lose stability. So like, for example, you see a fresh corpse, you witness a killing. Those kind of things can definitely cause you to lose your stability. But you're saying that you're looking at the abilities and you're like,
Yeah, it
well,
says
what is,
general ability stability 2. Is that
Mhm.
an ability I can take to be better at rolling on stability, or why? Because it's not on the
Yeah.
character sheet, I don't think.
So stability, the general ability is resistance to mental trauma and all that stuff. And did I?
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And of course, you could spend more on it. Now, there are some important pieces of information about background spends, or sorry, not background spends, your general ability spend and everything like that. So you have 70 points to build on your spend. Now there is there is an important point to make, is that when you're rolling using general abilities, there is a chance that you can fail. But of course, you can use points from your general abilities as part of your pool and everything like that. You can actually give yourself advantage effectively in your dice roll. Now, I'll explain a little bit more when we get to that and we start rolling those kind of things. Now, and one thing that I forgot to mention as well is that this game is fairly lax as you're building your character. If you don't find that there's something that really jives with how you're building your character and you have points left over, you're free to set aside some of those points and build them into your character as you need. So if the time goes up and you're like, oh, I feel like I should be good at this type of thing as we're play, you can definitely do so. But the important part is,
So you can effectively save points to spend later.
yeah, so rather than have that situation where you build like a certain character that doesn't fit the type of game that you're playing, you can go, well, I built the kind of character I want, but I'm going to save 15 points just for miscellaneous little things that I feel like I should be better or worse at going forward. Now, the important part is that there is no set cap on abilities. However, the second highest rating must at least be half of your highest rating, and that excludes cover or network. So let's say you wanted to build your health up to 30, which is what they suggest as part of the example, is if you want to build your health up to 30, this would at least require you to have one other general ability at 15. So, and that's not networking, that's some other general ability. So that would mean that you'd really, if you wanted to have a super high ability, which you can do, it would limit the other general abilities that you would be able to purchase. Now, something that's really cool about this is that with your investigation abilities, your general abilities, you do have something called a cherry that you get at +8. Now, I think almost every ability has a cherry. I think there were a few that did not, and basically the cherry was something that was just something a little bit better than where it is. Well, I guess some of them have cherries, I should say. I don't remember if they all did, but you can have like something it's really good when you have 8 or more points in an ability. And just off the top of my head, like shooting has something that you can get for having an 8 or more point benefit in that, as well as if you have like driving or piloting or something like that. If you happen to get into a high speed chase, that allows you to do refreshes by kind of describing how your character refreshes your pool. So like, for example, a high speed chase in this game is kind of like you have a goal. If you're pursuing someone, your job is to get the number down to 0. And if the person pursuing is the job to get the number up to 10. So based on how you succeed and how many points you spend and everything like that, you keep on moving a bar back and forth. But unfortunately, because you have a limited pool, once you run out of those extra points, you could lose that person that you're chasing. However, if you have 8 or more in the required ability, you can get a 3-point refresh in the chase, and that may be the way to break through and get your query there. Okay.
Languages. How does a rating in languages work? If you have more than 1 point in it, do you just speak? Like, is it extra languages or what is it?
Let's see. Languages. So in languages, that is network, not languages. Wow, I cannot spell.
No, there's a chart, Brent.
Yeah, there is.
So like if you have a language rating of 3, you have 7 languages.
Okay. That's what I was kind of asking.
Yeah, I didn't remember the exact number there.
No,
yep,
yeah, no, it's crazy.
Yeah, you can. So for each rating point in languages, you are verbally fluent and literate in a number of languages other than your native tongue. So additional languages at 3 plus is language rating means that you get a 4. And language is a investigation ability, right? Not a general.
And you still have whatever your native language is, so it counts on
So-
top of the.
So if you have 1 in language, what does it cost? What do you get?
Yeah, 1 gives you 2 additional language in addition
so
to your
you'll have
native
3.
tongue. So you have 3 languages. And if you so
At
but
4,
it
you
builds.
can speak and read 13 other languages. It gets nuts.
Yeah. So because it's additive, so the +2 you get for a language rating run gets added to your +3 for a language rating 2. Wow, that is nuts. I thought it was just you got 3 languages because I couldn't imagine speaking
No.
6 languages. But then again, I'm also not a super spy. That's on me.
Well, once you start learning languages, though, a lot of them build on each other and make it
Mhm.
easier to learn additional languages. It doesn't mean that you are going to pass as a native speaker.
Correct.
You can at least communicate.
Yep. And lip reading counts as a single language. So
it
if you want to have lip reading,
Interesting.
you have to choose lip reading, and you can use it to speak a language you already understand. So if you want to see what they're speaking in English, you would use lip reading there.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, and the director can allow overlap between related languages.
Yeah. So if you speak Italian, you could probably passably get away with, Spanish in some ways, not perfect, but.
Oh, ASL is its own separate language. Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's general abilities and investigation abilities and backgrounds. Now, for the most part, that's going to be like your main things that you're going to use to kind of round out your character. The one thing that's really important, though, is that in addition to those things, you are going to get something that's very important, and this is your MOS. Now, MOS is a little bit different than the other things because it's basically like it's like your background, I should say, like
It's your specialty, basically.
yeah, it's like your specialty as to what you did in your previous life. Now, MOS basically stands for military occupational specialty, and so it's something that is like, what does it say here? It's everybody gets their own MOS. Please don't choose the same MOS because that's just kind of your signature thing that you do. And once per session, what you can do with your MOS is you invoke it to automatically succeed at a given general ability. So, for example, if your MOS is shooting, once per session, you automatically can hit and kill a human target. So you just make that happen. If your MOS is driving, once per session, you can automatically escape or intercept another car and so forth. So you can shortcut an entire chase scene by being an expert driver. You basically just describe how that's, they try to get away. I don't let them. This is my wheelhouse kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
MOSs do not, however, to automatically defeat supernatural challenges, and this is important to distinguish, is that if it's a supernatural challenge, like, for example, you encounter a vampire, like a literal vampire, you might not have to roll to hit the vampire with the stake to the heart, but it wouldn't just automatically kill him like you would with the shooting MOS in another situation. And you cannot use your MOS to do something that is sheerly impossible. So you can't force your car to start flying because you're a good pilot or something like that. All right.
And that could be any of the general abilities, right?
Correct. Yeah. So athletics, conceal, cover, digital intrusion, disguise, driving, explosive device. Filch,
Conceal is what I picked as my MOS.
Okay. It's pretty good.
I figure it's fitting for a cleaner.
Where did you write that on the sheet?
I just put it right next to the skill itself. I just
Okay.
typed it in. I don't know if you're using the sheet that I made or not.
I think I am, because I think that's the only one I saw.
Okay. Once you have your MOS selected and everything like that, okay. All right. Now, let's see. So before we move on from general abilities, I should say, we've already got MOS and all that stuff. But if you like, the things you don't want to forget about is that health and stability are going to be your punishment and your psychological resistance that you have in horror. That those are going to be tested quite a bit, so they're not good dumb stats. Combat is also dangerous in this game, so getting shot matters. The one thing about Cthulhu Confidential that was a little bit different than this version is that in Cthulhu Confidential, you as the investigator can't die unless the player chose to die, right? Like the player has, there's always a way out for the player in that kind of pulpy investigation thing. But in this game, if you go into a warehouse full of goons that all have a lot of heavy artillery and you just walk in unarmed and you say, "Don't shoot me," and they shoot you, that you can't assume that you're going to be able to get out of that unscathed. Driving and shooting are different skills, of course. You need to have all those kind of things covered at the table in this kind of game. So if one of you wants to be a really good driver and one of you wants to be a really good shooter, it's not frowned upon. So
I took shooting 4 and I have driving 4.
Okay.
So I'm kind of okay at both.
So, and then of course, something that you guys might want to think about is if your characters are more of an infiltration group or a force group, like, are you guys using skills to get into things quietly and kind of um, don't leave a trace, or are you getting into things because you happen to have the best shot and just kind of can breach any location no matter where you're at?
Well, we're not a muscle group. He's an asset handler and I'm a cleaner. We're not really a muscle group.
Could just be your cover.
Take an 8 in shooting. I'm the sort of cleaner that shoots people.
I clean up other people's messes.
I clean up my mess after I make it.
Yeah. So I'm just saying. So it's not, so if infiltration your choice, just know that maybe that's where your skills are going to be. Next is going to be your sources of stability. Now, stability is, of course, as we already discussed, your psychological hit points. Now, vampires, conspiracies, and other things that you can do definitely erode that. Now, you have some sources of stability that tether you to sanity that allow you to kind of refresh it. You basically have a person, a place, and a symbol. Mechanically, you call upon these to regain stability in the field. And so just know that sometimes your stability can also become targets. And this is probably more for like campaign play and everything like that. So if you have a place that is like your bug out cabin in the woods and you always go to your bug out cabin, it's going to be easier for the bad guys to find it and kind of defile your sacred place and all that kind of stuff. So it no longer becomes that safety net that it was. And so the kind of thing that you think about in this is that it's like, well, what would what do these look like, and then what would you do to protect these things? So now I don't know. I think we could probably think about that in between now and our first session if you guys want to take some time to think about those things, or if you guys have some that you were thinking about that you wanted to share as you started, just to kind of give your character a little bit of texture right now, we can definitely share it as well.
I don't have any pre-thought of sources of stability.
I don't really yet either.
Okay. Well, then we'll save that for the introduction of our characters on session 1. Now, next is the drives that you have. So the basically that your drives are the reason your character is still in the fight instead of on a beach somewhere. Now you have a list of drives that you can basically choose from, and the drives themselves are, I'd say a good grouping of them, but you can be like altruism, atonement, like you're protecting innocence and altruism. And atonement, you did something wrong and now you're trying to fix it. Comradeship, mystery, you're driven to solve a mystery. You have nowhere else to go. You're a patriot. I actually never left the game kind of thing. Programming is basically you're under some outside compulsion. Restoration, you want to kind of go back into the game, and so you're using this as kind of a way to get back into the spycraft game. You're a burned asset that wants to become unburned, maybe. Revenge, slayer, once you found out vampires existed, you want to just kill them all. Thrill seeker, maybe some transparency. Those are kind of just your main drives and everything like that. And every agent is going to have a drive, and this motivating factor is going to kind of compel you forward. And it kind of prevents you from being that just like, oh, well, there's something happening, I'm just going to sit around in the hotel room. Well, not if you're a slayer, there's something bad to go out there and kill and all that kind of stuff. But mechanically, it, like drives are what I would say is that
It's what propels your character forward.
It does, but it's interesting because there are two aspects of drives that are important. First of all, if you kind of don't live up to your drive, if you've selected a drive and you just because metagaming wise you decided it's too dangerous for you to pursue it or something like that, well, remember, this is you being in your character, and because it's your character's drive, you should push that forward more so than other considerations. Not stupidly, but of course, you should at least attempt to achieve whatever your drive is compelling you to do. But if you don't, I can inflict a stress penalty. And so it's like you basically, you lose concentration, because you're acting against your fundamental nature, and it increased all of your investigation spends by 1, and it increases all the difficulty of your rolls. So in this game, when you're rolling general abilities, you're rolling against a target number. And so that becomes more difficult if you fail to follow your drive. On the other hand, if your character really gives into their drive, and this could be and may be at the great risk to themselves, I may allow you to refresh 1 or 2 pull points from any general ability, reflecting the inner certainty that comes from following your purpose. So if you resist it, there's penalties. If you embrace it, there may be rewards, kind of thing.
Makes sense.
Okay. And then, so once you guys get a drive figured out, did any of those drives just jump out at you?
I picked atonement.
Atonement. Ooh, how so?
Wait, isn't that one supposed to be secret? No,
I don't think so.
No, that one wasn't. That was some of the other ones. Sorry.
Well, between you guys, I mean, from a meta perspective, I don't think there's going to be any secrets for anything, but but from a
no, sorry, it was restoration, and I never left, or best between the player and the director.
I figured I covered up a few things. I cleaned things that I deemed I have to atone for. Basically, people were profiting off of what I was doing, and I wasn't aware of it. And so I have to atone for making them look not guilty when they were.
Okay. Like it. And so I think atonement's a really good one. I think that's a nice one. It's one of the ones that I like on this list. Jeff, you said you were choosing restoration, or
no. I think I'm going to go with mystery. I've got to figure out what the mystery is.
Okay. So your character is driven to solve a mystery. Maybe, and they give some examples like what happened to my old partner, what happened during my missing week.
Who burned me with the agency.
It's true.
Or the vampires behind the Iraq War. That kind of stuff,
It's true. And Jeff, what you noticed there on that restoration, that icon that you saw was part of the mirror story. So that's the one that has more of the hidden agendas, shifting allegiances, and so that's why it's like
Sure.
that's why you keep that one a secret from your players.
Yeah, it changes the type of story because in that type of story, the players work against each other.
and they can.
Well,
Potentially.
yeah, to a degree. Like they said, a Mossad agent probably doesn't want to help a CIA agent. You know, they probably don't care much about a CIA agent being able to get back working for the CIA.
Oh no, but what we're saying is that in the mirror type games, those games are actually more.
Yeah.
You do more. You might have. It's more like the Alien game where you might have things that come up. The GM has things that come up where you're actually
Sure.
at odds with one another.
Yeah, and that's not this. It's not as typical in the standard default setting as it is in the mirror game. So, because then your fellow table mate could choose to help you not be restored to your former agency because they're like, oh, you really want to get back in the CIA? I know somebody that can help you do that.
You told me you wanted to kill vampires.
Yeah, he's crazy. So the last thing that's really on there is basically two things. There's the trust and betrayal, and starting trust is you begin with 5 trust points, and basically you'll start 3 trust with the player that you're most in. And this is when you have more than 2 players. Obviously, you would start with 5 trust points, and among your fellow player characters, you'd pick one whom you most trust, assign 3 trust to them, and then pick one who you least trust, and you assign 0 trust to them. And then, of course, you would assign 1 trust to each of the relationship with up to the other 2 members of your team.
So you're saying we're assigning 5 trust to each other.
So Jeff is a 0.
3 trust to each other. So you actually assign.
But we have 5 to assign.
They're actually just lost. Those extra 2 points just gone into the.
We don't trust anybody that much.
Where
Jeff.
are you putting that on the sheet, Brent?
It's the second sheet, the second tab.
Oh, is there okay?
Cover network trust on it, and then notes at the bottom.
Cover network trust. Okay, sorry, I didn't see the second sheet.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, and so trust is interesting. That you're, because that you can actually spend trust. So during play, you may spend other agents' trust during scenes in which your 2 agents are both present. Each trust point acts like a point spend from any pool that the spender designates. If you already have their trust, you could spend 1 trust to add 1 to another agent's shooting die roll, for example, or provide 1 point to spend on interrogation for that extra piece of intel. Of course, they should be plausible as to how that happens. But it can be simple, like, oh, I throw him a spare clip so he's, has full auto, he can shoot all the bullets, kind of thing. Or, how do you add to the interrogation and all that kind of stuff? Because there are rules where you can kind of collaborate and do all those kind of things on certain skill rolls and everything like that. And then last but not least, there's a section called Maps and Legends, and this is kind of the sketch of your agent's past. And I believe, much like anything, is it's going to be highlights rather than full details and all those kind of things, so that as your character plays, you can build in extra details from their past, maybe spend points and skills that you can kind of justify and all that kind of stuff. But it's just to give you kind of an idea to, like when did you get into the clandestine life? What, like were you in the military and then got into the CIA and then you worked, until you were 40 and then they burned you at 40. When did you get out? Did you actually leave because you just couldn't handle that type of work anymore? Did you maybe botch an operation and they just kind of left you out to dry? And then, of course, how do you meet up with your friend? Like, what was the thing that got you together? Like what got you together? How did you know each other? Like, were you guys just part of the same book club and eventually realized that you were in the same line of work? Maybe it was something else. Those kind of things help you define your character. So do you guys, out of curiosity, do you guys have any ideas as to how your characters met in general? Any thoughts there?
Not at the moment.
No, we'll have to think about that.
All right. So the idea is that once you're done with that, you pretty much have created your character. Now, there's definitely a lot to choose from in there, and I think that I personally feel like it feels like it's a little bit front loaded, and I think the only reason is because you have so many abilities that you have to choose. But once you get through the abilities and everything like that, the actual mechanics themselves are very easy. And as you guys are kind of assigning,
You don't really have to do much. I mean, you don't have to like. It doesn't have a shopping list or anything really. You just kind of have your equipment,
right?
right?
And then
Like, there isn't really a shop. Like that's kind of how it works, right? Is like we just say, well, we have that, or we have a spend for what we want to have.
Correct. So in this, there's a thing called, there's a tools section, and there's a few different ways to do acquisition of the tools. Now, since this is a spy thriller, obviously there's going to be, there's that idea that you can't like just have a bag of guns, get on the plane with your carry-on of 2 Uzis and 14 pounds of C4 like that. Like there's that realism that they try to have in the game or anything like that. So much like, the movies where you see them get to a location, you may have to tap local resources to acquire certain types of things. And there are going to be some things that are easier to get. You can't just go to, as we said in the beginning of this, Marrakesh, and then go, I would like an atom bomb. Just give me a dirty bomb, please. Like that type of thing would be impossible. However, you could get to Marrakesh, and if you want, there's a way to hand wave it where we just say, okay, well, you get to Marrakesh, you tap some of your old network, and you get.
If you have an 8 in preparedness, technically you could get that, couldn't you? Or not preparedness. Yeah,
preparedness. Well, no, you roll. So preparedness allows you to find caches. So there's and so basically one of the things that allows you to do is a roll of preparedness against difficulty 6 to locate a cache of stored goods that you may know about from your previous life. And so, I mean, I guess if your previous life, the agency had a nuke around, I might make that more difficult as a roll, but
I just remember a story of somebody playing Night's Black Agents where their character had like an 8 in preparedness and they saved it in the entire game until like a helicopter came to get them. And then he was like, I just happen to have this bazooka with me. And like, it was like, well, okay. You spent all 8 points.
That's crazy.
Like, yep, you have a bazooka to shoot down the helicopter, coincidentally.
Kind of. I mean, I'm not going to say
I
that
always
it would
wondered
be.
why he carried around that gym bag everywhere.
Exactly. He had it in his hotel room.
It seemed out of place.
It may have.
In hindsight.
But when you get into some of these abilities, they have some really interesting things that you can do with them. I mean, preparedness is definitely one of those ones. And what you're talking about there is the in the nick of time component. Is if you have preparedness rating of 8 or more, you can have also retroactively prepared to specific timely actions such as a smoke bomb or incendiary going off as a diversion. Power suddenly being out in an office building, a gun smuggled in earlier and pre-positioned in the drop ceiling above you, or a traffic snarling parade, I mean, a rocket launcher isn't too far-fetched by comparison to those, I guess.
I mean, military, no, it's not for like a spy movie.
No, it's fine. Just have that RPG in your back pocket, But those are the kind of, but that's the kind of stuff that if you have that's what we're talking about when you have those 8 pluses in certain abilities, is that's when you start to get into the really cool abilities that you can do extra stuff with. So
sure.
I have an 8 in conceal.
Okay. Any other 8s out there? Jeff, did you pick an 8 in anything?
I am so far from being done that it's not even funny. I'm going to have to finish up after we get done.
Okay. Well, that's okay. I mean, and it, as you guys look at the different types of abilities and everything like that, sometimes it kind of gets a little bit fluid, and you go, well, I thought I wanted to do these kind of things, but this actually sounded cool as well. So, don't be afraid to mix it up a little bit. But of course, the more you can do to
Right.
complement each other, the better off.
But we
you're
also
going to
have to cover all of the investigative abilities with at least a 1
Yeah.
between us. Between us.
Correct. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
All
we
right.
can't cover all of the investigative abilities between us, can we?
Yeah. So if you put 1 in every investigative ability, I think you still have like 14 points left over between the two of you.
So we have to have a 1 in somebody has to have a 1 in accounting, is what you're saying.
That's what they suggest, at least.
Is that what they suggest, or is that a rule?
Well, I should say that's what they say in order to make sure that everyone can get clues whenever they need to.
Yeah, but that's the investigative abilities, not the general abilities.
Correct.
Yeah, but we only have 18 points apiece.
In what?
The investigative abilities.
No,
right?
you have 32 points.
Oh, it's the other way around.
Yeah.
Okay.
So remember, you have 32 points in investigation abilities.
I just had them backwards.
Your background costs 6, and then
I had them backwards. That's
okay.
all. That's all.
Okay, so we have 32. The background costs 6, so we have 26 additional to use, or we have 32 additional to use.
26
background
additional.
Subtracts. That's 26 additional. Okay.
And then you have 70 general, and the background subtracts 18 from that.
I might have to rework.
Did my background give me general stuff?
So I have them backwards, I think.
Did it? I missed that.
Yeah,
no,
you said you're a who are those guys? An asset handler. So an asset handler would have cover 3.
Oh no, I had 18
trouble.
cover. Okay, no, it does. I forgot cover 3. I was like, I've only got 15. It's costing me 18, and I've only used 15.
Yep.
Sorry, that's me. Yeah, no, there's a lot. It's not overwhelming, but it's a lot to try to allocate off the top of my head. 32 and 70. That I can handle.
32. What do we have again?
32 investigation and 70 general.
And 70 general. Okay. I didn't give myself enough, so I have to do a little bit more.
Yeah, no, I've got to. So we can have our own specialties in general abilities, but we definitely need to cover the stuff that we have, probably our secondary, suggestion stuff past the first 6, and then the other stuff we got to split somehow.
Yeah, and it's fine if you don't feel like your characters would be necessarily as good. So you may just spend 1 point to be proficient in those areas. But if you want areas that
a lot of ones.
Yeah, if you have an area that you feel like you want to spotlight, though, put that up to a 2 or a 3 so that you can have those extra points that you can spend as you need to.
Of course. No, I get that part. We're each going to have some stuff. But like my background didn't give me anything other than a 2, so I figured 2 is not bad. 2 is pretty good.
2 is good, yeah. And I think that really, I didn't really see anywhere that suggested people take like 4 points or anything like that in investigation abilities. But I don't think there's anything that stops you, because it just creates a bigger pool, if that makes sense. So you could have an investigation ability all the way up to 4, 5, 6, 7 if you wanted, but I think you would lose out, because that would mean you're really specialized in that one ability. So that would be doing a lot of heavy lifting unless you know that you're going to use it. All right.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, then that's pretty much it. I think our next time we get together, what we'll do is we're going to go through and just kind of have an introduction to your characters, where you put your final points and everything like that. Like how you view your character specialty and everything. And then, of course, if you can elaborate a little bit on your sources of stability and all that, just to give your background, that would be great. And then we will get you guys ready for Marrakesh. And Marrakesh it is.
Okay.
So, thank you, everybody. I know that's a lot of rules dumping.
Thank you, everyone.
And all that stuff.
No, that was a lot. I'm still a little... It's a lot.
It's front-loaded a lot.
But once you get going, it should be pretty
nailed down.
So, thanks everybody. If you want to speak to us in the comments, jump right in. And if you want to give us ideas as to what we could have done differently as to how we created our Night Spec agents, let us know. We're open to suggestions. And Jeff, if they want to talk to us outside of YouTube, how do they do that?
You can find us on social media. We're on Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Twitter. We are at Rollwise. You can email us at rollwiseguys@gmail.com.
And as always, thank you for joining us. We appreciate having you here. And roll well, roll wise, and be safe out there, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.